بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي وبعد فاللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما وارزقنا فهما والحمد لله على كل حال ونعوذ بالله من حال أهل الضلال برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي وبعد. First and foremost, we thank and we praise Allah Ta'ala, our nourisher, sustainer, who provided the omnipotent. And thereafter, we send the choices of salutation, salam of the best of creation, our beloved role model, messenger Muhammad, chain of transmission, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And may the same salutations, blessings be upon his pure household, his companions. And may the same salutations, blessings be upon us for Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Indeed, tonight we start and we kick off and commence with our first session in what we refer to in the Islamic tradition known as Fiqh as-Seerah. Fiqh as-Seerah. Fiqh as-Seerah is basically loosely translated as the jurisprudence of the prophetic lifestyle of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Inshallah ta'ala, we will be using and reading from the work Fiqh as-Seerah an-Nabawiyya that was written by Sheikh Saeed Ramadan al-Bouti. Sheikh Saeed Ramadan al-Bouti. You could also find this book available in English. There is an Arabic work available as well. It's called Fiqh as-Seerah an-Nabawiyya ma'a Mujaz لتاريخ الخلافة الراشدة دراسات منهجية علمية لسيرة المصطفى وما تنطوي عليه من عظات ومبادئ وأحكام, which basically means that the book and the actual heading of this book explains what the book and the subject matter is about. So it is about the law or laws that are extracted from the prophetic lifestyle of the Prophet ﷺ, and looking at a synopsis of the history of the caliphates. So it is research studies, academic research studies regarding the prophetic lifestyle of the Prophet ﷺ and extracting lessons, principles and laws from it. Okay, and so just to give all our listeners and all our viewers a broad or a bird's eye view of the book, I always like to go back to the index of every book. So before we actually teach the book, it's imperative that throughout these lessons, whilst we are teaching, you have the bird's eye view of the subject matter in front of you, and that is so that you do not lose track of the objective of the subject. Okay, so for every subject that we study in the Sharia, there are 10 fundamentals which you are able to assess how much do you actually know of that particular subject. And the poet sums it up very beautifully. إن مبادئ كل فن عشرة الحد والموضوع ثم الثمرة وفضله ونسبة والواضع والاسم الاستمداد حكم شارع. And this is, you can translate it as the 10 golden principles, or the 10 principles of every Islamic legislative or every Islamic science, if you like. So the first thing that we need to know about any subject matter that we are studying is the definition, al-hadd. So these two types of definitions, the one is a linguistic definition, the second is a technical definition. So the linguistic definition is meaning, when I translate the word fiqh, what does fiqh mean according to the Arabs? So al-fahm, mutlaq al-fahm, unrestricted understanding. But when the word fiqh is used according to experts and jurists, they actually mean something very specific. Okay, so that is the technical meaning. also known as the Sharia meaning. Okay, so this is the first principle, al-hadd. The second principle that scholars usually look at is the mawdu'. And it's important whether we're studying the fiqh of Hajj or whether we're studying the Seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, or whether we're studying Aqidah, that you go back to these 10 principles and actually ask yourself, okay, how much of these things did I actually learn, and how much of these things am I actually able to explain? So the second part is the mawdu', the topic. What are the topics that would be discussed in the subject, or what is the subject matter about? Okay, so if someone were to ask me, okay, you're studying fiqh seerah, what does that mean? What are the topics that you guys study in fiqh seerah? So we will say, for example, in fiqh seerah we study let's say the importance of studying the prophetic tradition, or the importance of his birth and the lessons that we can extract from his birth, sallallahu until the advent of Islam, meaning until he was then elected as a prophet by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so these are the mawdu'at, these are the topics. Al-mawdu' thumma thamara. The third principle and golden rule is, what are the benefits of studying fiqh seerah? What are the benefits of studying the subject matter? So the ulama refer to these rules as mabadi al-ashara, right? The 10 rules, or the 10 principles. Okay, the 10 principles of any particular subject. Al-hadd wal-mawdu' thumma thamara. إن مبادئ كل فن 10 الحد والموضوع ثم الثمرة وفضله. The fourth thing is then mentioned, the virtue. What's the virtue of studying fiqh seerah? Okay, what's the virtue of studying fiqh seerah? The fifth thing, how do we establish the relationship? So the relation of fiqh seerah to other sciences in Islam. What relation does this subject have to do with other subjects in Islam? Okay, so what relation are we able to draw between the science of fiqh seerah and other sciences? And you will come to learn that many people study seerah, but many people do not study perhaps fiqh seerah. So a lot of people are studying seerah. So a lot of people are studying the history of the Prophet ﷺ, but not many people tend to pay attention to the aspect of studying the fiqh behind the lifestyle of the Prophet ﷺ. What are the jurisprudence or the legislative laws that we can extract from the life of the Prophet ﷺ? So we are not here to merely share fairy tales about the Prophet ﷺ. We are not here to share some historic event and tale that took place, like the previous nation said, Asatirul Awwaleen. We're not here to speak about ancient tales. Okay, the purpose is not reiterating that, but rather the focus of fiqh seerah specifically is how do we implement the laws that could be extracted and deduced from the life of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in the 21st century. Okay, so this is the fifth thing. How do we draw the relation to other sciences? Well, the sixth golden rule to study any science is you need to know who was the first person to document the science. Okay, so you will notice in the first few lessons will just be introduction as to what is Seerah and what is Fiqh Seerah. Okay, because to many of us this is a new subject. Okay, so who was the first person to write a book in Fiqh Seerah? How did it then evolve into the current works that we have today? And like I said, the book that we are studying, for those who just joined recently, is Fiqh Seerah An-Nabawiyya, that was written by Sheikh Saeed Ramadan Al-Bouti, a Syrian scholar. The book is also found online. There are many translations for the book, alhamdulillah. So for those who want to download the book, they can download it, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. We are speaking about the 10 principles of studying any Islamic science. Okay. And we've reached the 7th one now. Okay. So the first person to document the work, wal-wadi'u. And then the 7th golden rule is you need to know the name of the subject and the science that you are studying. So what's the name of the science? Many people will refer to it as Seerah. Many people will refer to it as Tariq, history. Others will refer to it as maybe a spectrum of fiqh. Okay, al-ism. Then the 8th golden rule to study any science is we need to know from what sources are the science deduced from. So where are we extracting the information that we are teaching? Where are we extracting the information that we believe in, essentially? Okay. And then to end off is what is the legal ruling of studying this particular science? So is it a individual obligation for every Muslim to study the science? Or is it a communal obligation, as we know it as fard kifaya? Or is it fard ain? Or is it just sunnah and mustahab recommended to study the science? Okay. So walismu listimdadu hukmu shari'un. Okay. So this is the 10 principles. So just to reiterate the 10 golden principles of studying any science, an easy way to evaluate and to assess your knowledge of any science in the Sharia, ask yourself these 10 questions. How many questions am I able to answer? Right? So if I were to ask you, what's the definition of fiqh? Okay, linguistically, meaning according to the dictionary. What is the definition of fiqh according to the ulama of fiqh? Okay, the technical meaning. So the first point of the golden rules is the definition. The second point of the golden rule is you need to know the topics that the subject or the science consists of. The third is what is the benefit of studying the science? The fourth is what is the virtue of studying the science? The fifth is how do you draw the relation of the science that you're studying, which is Fiqh Seerah, to other Islamic sciences? Okay, so what's the relationship between Fiqh Seerah and Fiqh? What's the relationship between Seerah and history? What's the relationship between this and the Quran? What's the relationship between this and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? Is there a difference between the Seerah and the Sunnah? Right? These are terminologies that needs to be defined so that we are clear as to what we mean when we say Seerah and what do we mean when we speak about the Sunnah. The sixth is the first person to write in the science. So who's the first person to document a work in the science? And then the seventh one is what's the name of the science? And then the eighth is where do we derive and extract the science from? And the ninth is what is the legal ruling of studying the science? Okay, so what's the Sharia ruling of studying Fiqh Seerah? And I think I missed one on the way. So just to revise that, the definition, al-had wal-mawdu', the topic, the thamara, the benefit, the virtue, the nisba, the relation, the first person to document it, the name, where it has been extracted from, and then the legal ruling. Okay. وَمَنْ دَرَى الْجَمِيعَ حَازَ الشَّرَفَ. وَمَنْ دَرَى الْجَمِيعَ حَازَ الشَّرَفَ. And whosoever knows all these 10 things about a particular science, then he will be engulfed and engrossed with honor and a lofty status among society. Okay, so I said in this session, what I'll do, I'll give a brief overview of what will be discussed in this particular book and what this reading will consist of. So the idea is to look at the content or the index of the book and to tell you this is the topics that we will discuss. So you can make your own content page, right, as to the topics that we shall discuss in these settings. And then, you know, we shouldn't restrict the information to this book specifically, but we can extract from many other sources. The point is that we cover the topic, okay? So the first division of the book will concentrate on introduction, okay? So from page 15 to around about page 37 speaks about the following topics. Number one, the importance of the prophetic lifestyle. Okay, so the importance of the prophetic lifestyle regarding the understanding of Islam. So the importance of understanding the life of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in order to understand Islam. Why is that important? Okay, so that's the first point of departure. Okay, thereafter, the second topic we discuss is how did the science Seerah, okay, which is loosely translated as lifestyle, right, or biography if you like, how did the biographical works, okay, develop and evolve? So the second topic is primarily focusing on the academic analysis and the development of the science Seerah itself, right, through its infancy stage, into its development stage, into its crystallization stage, until it reaches the 21st century, and then eventually speaking about what is the obligatory nature of human beings and millennials and Gen Z. How should they understand the lifestyle of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and how do they ought to understand it? Okay, so there will be a discussion between the difference between the prophetic history and history itself. So history, the dichotomy between history and the prophetic history. Okay, so that's a discussion on its own, but it falls part of the second discussion, which speaks about the development of the prophetic lifestyle, and then the dichotomy between the prophetic lifestyle and history itself. The third topic then which we will speak about, is how the ulama started to document, and this is very important, the documentation process of the seerah. How did that take place? كيف بدأت ثم تطورت كتابة السيرة? How did the prophetic history, how did the documentation begin of the prophetic history, and then how did it evolve eventually? Okay. The fourth topic is the academic methodology of narrating the prophetic lifestyle. The academic methodology regarding the narration of the prophetic lifestyle. Then the fifth topic speaks about the prophetic lifestyle in light of modern schools of thought with regards to the documentation of history. Okay, so how does modern schools of thought, right, especially modernists and what we refer to as al-hadatha, right, modernity, and how do these people view the academic methodology that was followed by the scholars of Islam and the process of documentation? Because we know that primarily they focused on the oral transmission, which we will see when we take up this discussion. There are a number of issues that requires deep analysis. Okay. Thereafter, we will discuss how should we study the prophetic lifestyle. Okay, so what is the required methodological approach of studying the history of the Prophet ﷺ? Then there's a very interesting topic here, and this is just introduction. This is just introduction. The following topic will be about what was the secret behind Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choosing the Arabian Peninsula as the foundation and the place where Islam will spread from. What was the secret behind it? So we will have a small discussion on that as well. Then Sheikh Saeed Ramadan al-Bhuti goes into the discussion of the Prophet ﷺ being the seal of prophets, the final prophet, and the relationship between the Prophet ﷺ's propagation, right, and the propagation of previous heavenly scriptures. Okay, so a comparative analysis between the da'wah and the propagation of Nabi ﷺ in relation to the other propagations that are also regarded as divine religions. Okay, so a comparative analysis between the Prophet's propagation, his da'wah, and the propagation of the Yahud and the Nasara. Okay, the Jews and the Christians specifically. And then to end off the introduction, the last discussion that we'll have in our introductory note will be regarding the concept of Jahiliyyah. The concept of Jahiliyyah, and we will define what we mean by Jahiliyyah, as this term is very uh, uh, it's used and it's misunderstood, even in the way Muslims use it today. And so we will speak about the concept of Jahiliyyah and the traces that still remain of Jahiliyyah. Okay, so this will be the introductory discussion for this book. That's the first division of the book. I won't discuss the second division. When we complete these discussions, then I'll give you an overview of the second division, which will then speak about, then we will only start studying Seerah. So I think maybe in the next 3 or 2 lessons will just be regarding these topics and introducing the subject matter, Fiqh Seerah, because then the second division will actually start with the birth of the Prophet ﷺ until the advent of Islam, which we refer to as the Bi'athah, when the Prophet ﷺ is now elected as a prophet from above the 7 heavens, figuratively, obviously. And we speak about that stage of his life from the birth, right? So that's a very long period, and I will give you a independent index for those for that discussion specifically. So when we discuss the birth of the Prophet ﷺ until the advent of Islam, there will be a independent index for that. As for our introductory classes, which will continue next week, okay, so these classes will be continuous, in the sense that every Wednesday we will have a class in Seerah, specifically discussing the book of Sheikh Saeed Ramadan Al-Bouti, and also at the end of the class I will allow for questions, and even during the class we have a chat, right? So even in the chat you can send your messages there, and I can take your questions if you have questions. So anytime during the lesson you feel that you have a question, you can type in the chat, and we can discuss those questions, inshallah ta'ala. So I will stop at that point. From next week, inshallah ta'ala, I will pick up the discussion of the importance of Seerah, and then we will get into the actual subject matter. So just to remind all our listeners and viewers that this class will take place every Wednesday after Maghrib, and that is South African time, Cape Town time. So after Maghrib, we will do the class of Fiqh Seerah, and on a Monday evening we will do our class on Kitab al-Hajj, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, I see Brother Rafiq says that he has only 9 points and not 10 fundamentals. Okay, so can you maybe type the 9 points that I mentioned, and then perhaps I can recall the 10th point. Because the poet says, إن مبادئ كل فن عشرة الحد والموضوع ثم ثمرة وفضله ونسبة والواضع والاسم الاستمداد حكم الشارع. إن مبادئ كل فن عشرة الحد والموضوع ثم الثمرة وفضله ونسبة والواضع والاسم الاستمداد وحكم الشارع. والبعض بالبعض اكتفى ومن درى الجميع حاز الشرف. Okay, so according to me, the definition, the had, the mawdu', the topics. I know which one is left out. Masailun. So, shukran for that, Brother Rafiq. So, the Brother Rafiq had mentioned the 9 points I mentioned. It's obviously 10 fundamentals in order to study any science in Islam. The definition, topic, benefit, virtue, relation, first documentation, name of science, where do we derive the science from, right? And what is the Sharia ruling of the science. Then the last one, Brother Rafiq, will be the Masail. We refer to it as Masail. Masail is the plural of the word Mas'alatun. A Mas'ala is a case study. That's one of the best translations I could come up with regards to the word Mas'ala. And a Mas'ala, a case study, is a independent scenario regarding a particular aspect or situation or circumstance within an individual's life. So we refer to it as Masail. So there are different case studies that are studied through every subject matter. Okay, so this is different to topics, and this, which is the 10th fundamental, case studies. We need to know the case studies of the subject matter. Okay, this is different to knowing the topics. So I can know, okay, fiqh, the topics of fiqh, salah. Okay, it contains tayammum, dry ablution, it contains ablution, it contains ghusl, the purificatory bath, it contains let's say funeral prayers, it contains mash ala al-khufayn, wiping over the foot gear. So that's with regards to some of the ibadat. Then you have, for example, mu'amalat. But before you even get mu'amalat, you have hajj, zakah. So these are the topics. But if I were to ask you, okay, what are the case studies of each of those topics? Those are the actual, that is the actual subject matter. So for example, in the topic of the foot gear, are you allowed to wipe over your khuf? Are you allowed to wipe over your foot gear whilst you're on travel? So that's a particular scenario. So we call it case studies. So I hope that clarifies it. Inshallah. On that note, we will conclude and we meet you guys next week, Monday, inshallah ta'ala, where we continue our Hajj class. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما وارزقنا فهما والحمد لله على كل حال ونعوذ بالله من حال أهل الضلال برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Please like and share our YouTube page and share the knowledge with everyone, and please subscribe to our page so that we can spread the love and the knowledge, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.